At the fringes of perception, beyond the boundaries of your mind, just past the glow of the firelight, out of the corner of your eyes, you will find an edge case. Edgecase Podcast, coming September 10th. Learn more at edgecasepod.com.
Step into the sand.
This is Macabre Grimoire with Ari Show, Travis Nye, and Robert Mailing.
Welcome again to Macabre Grimoire. I am your host, Robert Mailing, and also joining us is magician Travis Nye.
Hey, what's up?
Ari Show can't make it tonight, but I think the two of us, but I think the two of us can solo through this one here.
Hey!
Whee! So today we're going to tell you all about Soviet bone music. Yeah, context.
So bone music sounded cool, but then you put Soviet in front of it, and it's even cooler.
I was going to say, you're like, and I was immediately turned off.
Yeah.
Like, you're going the other way. You're just like, and that made it all the more cool.
Right? Yeah, why not?
So here's the lowdown. In post-World War II Russia, Stalin banned the possession of Western music. All records allowed into the country had to be of Russian composers, but there was an underground hungry for Western popular music. Everything from jazz to blues to rock and roll. But smuggling vinyl was very dangerous at the time. You know, see Stalin's many killings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never would have thought that smuggling vinyls would have been like the cool kids group.
Yeah. Russia, it was just like, oh, you've got food? Man, you're a rebel. Like,
clean drinking water?
Yeah, Stalinist Russia? Oof.
Vinyl records?
So, let's see. But smuggling vinyl was dangerous, and acquiring the scarce material to make copies of those records that did make it into the country was expensive and very risky, obviously.
Yeah.
An ingenious solution to the problem began to emerge in the form of bone music, sometimes called bone and ribs music or simply ribs, which could be really confusing because if you've got a friend and you invite them over for ribs, and they're just like, oh man, ribs, that sounds like a great meal, and then you get there and just like, what, some shitty jazz music? Oh, right. I'm so turning you into the Gestapo.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that was just code, like, you want some ribs?
Right.
Quotations?
Yeah, ribs, quote in the air, but I'm guessing ribs, like I'm talking about, were probably also illegal or like rationed or something. So it's just like...
Just Russian ribs were allowed.
They would be human ribs. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Then that's legal.
Russian, though.
A young 19-year-old sound engineer, Russian, and I am going to slaughter this pronunciation so bad, Bogoslowski?
That's pretty good. You had the accent behind it.
Thank you. In Leningrad, changed the game when he created a device to bootleg Western albums that he could distribute them across Russia.
Was it called Napster?
It was not.
Man.
Missed opportunity on his part. Problem was, he couldn't find material to bootleg his pressings onto. Vinyl was scarce, as were all petroleum products after the war. Then one day he stumbled onto a pile of discarded X-rays, and it worked. At the time, Russian law mandated that all X-rays had to be destroyed 1 year after 1 year of storage because they were highly flammable. So he dug into the trash bins and paid off the orderlies for X-rays.
All right, I don't know what to say. That's
for some reason that's like for me it's channeling the scene in Fight Club where they're like stealing the fat from the liposuction place.
Yeah,
that's kind of up there with not quite as gross, but it's weird, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What did the orderly think he was using them for? Just
I don't know. That's weird.
Hey, can I get some of those children's broken bone X-rays?
I'm sure he could have played it off as like
wow,
some sort of independent scientist, researcher.
There you go.
I mean, that had to have been common in this time in Russia, right?
Yeah, I'm sure. you know, a skeevy guy in like peasant clothing was just kind of like, I am researcher for a great institute.
I like it.
Why are you speaking English with a fake Russian accent? You're an actual Russian. It doesn't make any sense. By carefully cutting the x-rays into circles and burning a hole in the middle of them with a cigarette, man, this is getting into some serious like white trash territory on this.
Right.
The duo, there were two of these guys that started off here, and they called themselves the Golden Dog Gang after a British voice label. Okay, so they cracked out countless bootleg songs of Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, and the Beatles. They flooded the black market with these cheap precursors to modern flexi discs, which I had to look up. I had no idea what those were. The records basically were like flexible.
Okay.
It was like a thing late in the whole like vinyl thing before people started moving to tape decks.
Okay. Gotcha.
So let's see. They flooded the black market with these cheap precursors, all adorned with living and dead Soviet skulls, hip bones, femurs, and guts. Shattered kneecaps held the strands of birdland. Elvis Presley warbled out of a broken rib cage. A cracked skull grinned through an anonymous rendition of W.C. Hardy's St. Louis Blues. Ghostly scapulas embraced Boogie Woogie Jam. And for 20 years, he handmade about 1 million bootlegs onto X-ray film of everything from classic to Beach Boys. The dead sang along with the living. That's creepy. For 20 years, he handmade them. Let's see. The morbid presentation of these records earned them a variety of colorful nicknames, as we mentioned earlier, like Ribs, Jazz Bones, and another one that I thought was weird, My Grandma's Skeleton.
Okay. I feel like these are all like the Halloween soundtracks. Like that comes with the creepy
they would all
sounds.
Have Monster Mash on them, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's pretty good.
So let's see. For 20 years, bone music was the only way Russian music lovers could get their hands on Western music, which they played at music and coffee parties in their kitchens, away from where the KGB eyes and ears were at. Bone music is a testament to underground courage to subvert authority, rebellion, and love of music, the spirit of rock and roll. Unfortunately for the two gentlemen here that started this movement, the Golden Dogs, it also eventually earned them attention from authorities, which, after 1 million bootlegs, I'm just like, man, the Soviets were really like... secret police were really dropping the ball on that one.
Yeah. Like, how do you enforce it?
Yeah, that's true. It's not like you'd have like a CSI department to like track down the guys who were doing this.
Right, yeah.
But let's see. So, brought their attention to authorities who caught them distributing the forbidden music in the 1950s and sentenced them both to 5 years of hard labor in Siberia, which that sucks. Because that's basically, I mean, for 1 in 4 at least, that's a death sentence.
Yeah, I mean, Siberia is nice in the winter, but I wouldn't want to be there.
It's nice and killy, you know. In a stroke of luck for him and millions of other Russians, Stalin's death in 1953 brought relief. Thousands of prisoners were granted amnesty, and he was headed back home with even grander plans. So in case that, like, you know, just being loaded onto the train in that last-minute reprieve from Khrushchev, you know, in case you would have thought that would have scared him off of this, oh no, he gonna keep going. During those long, cold years in prison, Bogoslowski
There you go.
Had figured out a method to separate the 2 layers of X-rays from themselves and transfer the designs onto transparent film. He and Tagin, the other guy, got back to work, this time churning out records with both beautiful folk art and ripped-off Western labels. You'll see albums with the Columbia Records insignia written in Russian with a Made in Great Britain stamp. All went well for a while until they got arrested again and chucked into a gulag again. Let's see. When he was released several years later, he had one last big deal. He was going to press his own vinyl records. He figured out a way to soften wax on existing albums, and in relative privacy of his shed, he pressed real black vinyl albums that proved immensely popular. How did he get his hands on the proper material? At the time, record stores stocked scores and scores of vinyl records containing patriotic speeches of Lenin and Stalin, priced dirt cheap to encourage citizens to buy them. Bogoslowski bought up tons of them bought up a ton of them, which ultimately is what led to his third and final arrest. No, I love that. No one really bought those speeches, so seeing someone swoop in and hustle out with armloads of them clearly looks suspicious to some whistleblowing clerk. So back in the Gulag, he went for 3 more years of hard forced labor. Man, this guy loved music.
This guy is like the music version of George Jung.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. All because he wanted to listen to some jazz music, yeah. By the time he won his freedom the final time, he was returning to a different world. Reel-to-tape recorder had arrived, felling the black market bone business for good and signaling the beginning of the government's gradual withdrawal towards the West. There was also no need for him to continue bootlegging, so he retired into obscurity and hopefully stayed out of jail. All in all, the reign of Bones over Soviet music only lasted about 15 years, and their original disposable nature disposable nature means that they were some of there are a few surviving copies left. The X-ray audio story has captivated people for decades. Even Jack White got in on the action and released a pseudo Regenstots, which is the Russian word for this, of its own in 2013. But Bogoslowski's story survived only as a historical footnote until recently, when British musician Stephen Coates of the Real Tuesday Weld began the X-ray audio project. What it is it's like they're doing a documentary. They've got a website that's a giant archive of them and the work and stuff like that. It's basically like a historical preservation kind of thing.
So some of them did survive.
Some of them did survive. In fact, and we have linked it here to the in the show notes, but we're going to play it for you right now because I don't think Travis has gotten a chance to hear this yet.
No.
But here's what one of the surviving records sounds like, and I apologize in advance. It's not pretty, but when we're talking something that was bootlegged into an old X-ray and then had to survive 30 years in a garage somewhere.
Oh yeah. This takes me back.
That is some really, really desperate for music people.
I don't think his RPMs were right.
Yeah. But,
wow.
Yeah. So that's one of those
That is good.
Russian X-ray discs. That bone music.
I kind of want to play that at my next show and be like, this is what it is. This is what the show's about.
This is what's hot in Russia right now. Vladimir Putin all over this.
Right.
That being said, Mr. Putin, please don't have us murdered for besmirching your country.
Yes. All right, so... Well, to be honest, when I first seen the headline, bone music, the first thought that came into my head a while back was the scene from Lion King when they're all actually playing on bones.
Sure.
I'm like, that would have been cool. And then when I started seeing vinyls and stuff like that listed in what you have here, I was like, huh, well, that's not it. But so my first thought is, how easy is it actually to make a vinyl?
It looked pretty easy. That there's I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it, but there's these Philo machines that they mentioned that basically he got to see one in action, and that was his inspiration for doing it. Let's see. Trying to look through these articles here to see if they mention it, but yeah, it basically, apparently duplicating vinyl is not. Well, it wasn't super easy, as easy as making copies of tapes and stuff like that. It's it was pretty common and not too hard to do, apparently.
Because it's literally just vibrations, and
yeah,
so it's crazy that for me to think that they could do that, and with pretty much homemade equipment, it sounds like.
Yeah, the idea of like how records work and how our recordings of sound actually work and how like a speaker works is still like, I understand the science, but it's still magic to me that it's like
absolutely.
These two magnets inside of a thing with like an electrical current somehow produce like the sound of my voice and the sound of an orchestra and the sound, like almost perfectly, which is amazing, and the whole like they stored it in little scratches in like first Edison wax cylinders and then vinyl. It's just like, it's very like, I don't know, because especially with a record, it's like they're really recording like the physical sound wave like etched into something, which is pretty cool.
Right.
That's why I'm going to become a hipster and get a vinyl record player.
Well, maybe in like 70 years they'll be sitting around talking about how people used to sit in a room and record themselves talking.
Yeah.
Just about weird stuff.
You're going to be like, there's like, we got hit with a solar flare, so none of the electronic records from that era survived, but apparently something called podcasts were really big, but we have no idea what the heck they were.
Yeah, there's a lot of writings about podcasts.
Let's see. So yeah, that's Soviet bone music for you. It's a short but sweet one. I kind of wish Ari could have been here for this. This was one of her topics.
Yeah.
But
I really... Yeah. It still blows my mind that the dude thought about X-ray sheets.
Yeah.
For that.
I'm just kind of like, but what else would you use? Because it's like, what else? Like he was saying, or like it was saying about him, where else are you going to get petroleum products? Like place where it's rationed.
Yeah.
But they got all these sheets of...
I bet they'd look cool.
Yeah, they do look really cool. There's a lot of pictures of them out there, just like they said, like there's a fractured skull or like a broke sternum or something like that, and it'll have like...
I feel like the one on the top left there's like a Manson cover.
Yeah, doesn't it? It looks like something someone would intentionally make nowadays as their album, and everyone would be like, that's fucking metal as hell.
Yeah, like, oh no, that's a real skull.
Yeah, that's somebody's grandma. She had a headache.
Yeah.
But, that's
cool, man.
That's Soviet bone music for you. We hope you've enjoyed this very short episode of Macabre Grimoire. We hope you'll enjoy the next one here. And the next one here, we're going to get into some high strangeness for you. Get back into the paranormal a little bit. So thank you again for listening. If you like what we do, check us out at thesuempire.com. Check out the show, our Patreon, do all that stuff. And we'd really love reviews. If you like the show, if you listen, please give us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen, because that really helps the show find new listeners. So yeah.
New listeners and new content, so we can get suggestions and stuff also.
There you go. So thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you all next time.
Later.
Macabre Grimoire is a production of thesuempire.com. Learn more at macabregrimoire.com.